Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
yeah.
And just to kind of go back to that, and I can definitely relate to some of that. But what tends to happen though, like as we grow a little bit older, we kind of find ourselves not being able to escape this calling, this pull towards this energy, to do what we was put on earth here to do. So at what age did you, like, kind of say like, okay, let's go ahead and just let's check this out a little bit more. And was there any mentors that kind of maybe were kind of put in your path, or did anything else come up for you?
Well, it was funny because honestly, in high school, like it was my I got my confidence back because I was always
Right.
insecure about my eyes and everything. And then I had my eye surgery at the age of 12, my first one to corrective surgery. And I just was knowing things all along, but I was more like interested at the time to be like popular and kind of like own my stuff because I was just so insecure. And all of a sudden now I was like in
Mm-hmm.
modeling school, and I ended up being like this ugly duckling turning into like kind of a cute girl with straight eyes. So I was concentrated on boys, but I can tell you honestly, in high school, I knew like by the time I graduated, I was both a psychic and a medium, which are two very different things.
Yeah.
And people that bundle that together, like myself, means like the psychic, I can see and I know what's going on in the physical world with people. Like for yourself, like I don't want to know anything when somebody comes and sees me or talks to me over the phone. I do remote sessions also.
Mm-hmm.
I just have them sit down and I start reading them. This is what's going on with your life. This is what's happening now. And where it's mediumship, if they want that, I go and see who's connected to them on the other side. But I was already receiving messages at that young age. I was receiving them all along. I just was like, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to pay attention to this, but it would follow me. It was always
Mm.
there. And it was just so hard. I had to kind of get my mind off of those things and like concentrate on school and getting into college. So I did really know, like by the time I graduated, like the age of 16, 17 years old, high school, that I definitely had this going on. It was happening all the time. I had precognitive visions, like my grandfather was going to die and have a heart attack,
Right.
mowing the lawn, and then it happened.
Mm.
I knew what was going on with high school friends, like who they were going to be with, who they weren't, who was going to cheat on whom, and they always happened. So I kind of started testing myself, and like, sure enough, it happened. And then, so basically, I fast forward, I went to college, and then I was still like just trying to be normal. I just wanted to be normal, like this was
Yeah.
not easily accepted. It still isn't now. It's really, really tough.
Yeah.
So
And that's
I
that's
ended up,
very strange.
going to college,
Yeah.
and then everything still kept, I mean, I could talk for hours. Everything kept happening everywhere I lived. I was drawn to like places that had haunted locations where I lived. And you know deceased people would come to me for help because they were kind of stuck, and I had to help
Right.
cross them over. And then I was just getting validations left and right. But it wasn't really until I go on forever, but it wasn't really until my 40s where I was pushed so strongly. Prior to my dad's passing, I got a message from his mother, whom I never met. She was like
Mm-hmm.
2 years. My dad was 2 when she passed, and she said, "Come to me. Come to me. Your father's going to pass." I'm like, "Come to you where?" I didn't know where she was buried, and I was led to where she was buried through another family member, and found her grave. And she's like, "He's going to pass before September." And sure enough, he passed August 9th that year. And she was trying to reconnect to him on the other side. I'm like, oh my God, this is really happening. So there's a lot more, but I'll leave that to your questions if you ask me. But boy, oh boy, did things start to come out, and where things became validated. So I really, to answer your question, never really trained with anybody. And I honestly say that people that are gifted really don't need to be trained.
Right.
You have it. I mean, we
Exactly.
can train and we can develop it. Everybody has an ability, but some people have that higher access to the divine. Usually they've had like a near-death experience. And apparently I had a near-death experience at 2 when I couldn't breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And it just does something with heightening your vibration, Marcus. And so, when you have that happen to you, it just kind of puts you in a higher state.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that people can't develop this, but normally people that are very gifted, they already have it. And I did write a book on it called "Who Are You? Are You a Psychic, Medium, or the Spiritual Worker?" Like how I channel information, because people go around like me their entire life going, am I crazy? Is this really happening? Am I really, talking to angels, or am I talking to deceased loved ones? Or am I going to talk to, or am I getting a psychic message? Am I nuts? Or is this really happening? So I really wrote this book. It's very thin. It's on Amazon, called Who Are You? I wrote it really because I felt like people need to know if they are gifted or not before they take training, or just to really embrace themselves and say, all right, I'm not nuts. So like all those things I was experiencing aren't really happening. So it kind of answers the question for them.
That's very compelling, and I really appreciate you just laying it all out for us. And just to switch gears slightly a little bit, because you really brought up something that's really important for people who are listening right now, and maybe thinking the same thing that like I'm thinking, like, why is this not widely accepted, as so many things now today are being accepted? Like you still getting a lot of pushback, and I kind of know the answer to that. It has a lot to do with religion. It has a lot to do with, like, the way mainstream media depicts it, and people are very, appreciative. People who, like, are comfortable with it, are very appreciative of people like yourself who are brave enough to, come to the forefront now to say, okay, it is what it is, and I am helping people. So how do you balance that on a day-to-day basis? And do you have any words of encouragement for people who may still be struggling with, like, okay, is this evil practice? What is this?
So I would say, honestly, my words of encouragement are, if you've already had it, I do believe, Marcus, that this is a God-given gift. I really struggled with that my entire life. Even with my 20s, 30s, I was very intrigued by it. I kept being pushed to help people. And I opened up, I became a Reiki master teacher, an herbalist first, then a Reiki master teacher, because I really wanted to help people going through divorce. I went through a really bad traumatic divorce, and took my son with me. And I was just like, I got to help people, divorce, etc. Loss, trauma. And I knew that if I did hands-on healing, which is a Japanese healing art, that I would probably be able to get more information for them. In a nutshell, this woman that was on the bottom floor of the building, she was Christian, and every time I walked by, she's like, oh, the witch is in. The witch is in. And it was really hard because I am Catholic. Right. I was raised Catholic. I still believe in God. I actually talk to God. And he was probably one of the first people I talked to when I was 8 years old in church. I'd say, why do I have these problems with my eyes? Why is it so hard? And I'd hear back, because you'll see. You have to help people. You'll see. And I never, ever thought I'd end up doing this. And it wasn't really until I started having, like hands-on healing work with my practice, I really believe it led me to where I am now in helping people. I saved a lot of people. I had people that found me by synchronicity. They found my sign or, something, and they'd come to me and they were like suicidal or had drug addictions, or they were pregnant, and I picked it up and said, I do a hands-on healing for them and say, don't abort your child. They say, how do you know that? I said, because God's telling me you have a child that you're going to abort. Don't abort this child. And I know one of the listeners, there'll be somebody listening to this that is one of my clients that's been like for decades with me, because it was her child. And I said, that child is going to save you and transform your life. And she was a drug addict. And she ended up having this child, and that child did transform her life. She got off of drugs. She ended up having more children, marries, has a normal life. And, and then there were other people that came to me that were like suicidal, or they were beaten, or they were abused, and they just found me. So I finally, before my niece passed away, I knew she was going to pass. I was trying to prevent her from passing, but she didn't listen.
Watch or listen to the Transform You Live show on any podcast app, on Roku, or on YouTube.